Flanagan. Dr. Duvall.
Present.
Ms. Maddox.
Present.
Mr. Milner.
Here.
Dr. Stanbaugh.
Here.
And Mr. Grant.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hope. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve this morning's agenda. So moved. Second. Been moved and seconded. Those in favor of this motion, signify by raising your right hand. Take this opportunity to welcome any visitors that we have in this morning's meeting to Union County School Board's April session. Visitors, members of the central office staff, school administrators, we appreciate your presence here this morning as we go about the business of providing quality education for the young people of Henry County. I'll ask at this time Reverend Alker if he will deliver this morning's invocation. Following that, Ms. Maddox will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning to deal with matters that pertain to the students and to the teachers and to the staff. Father, may you bless us, give us wisdom as we deal with these issues. We pray in the name of Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to item 2 on this morning's agenda, speakers from the floor. I believe we have no speakers signed up from the floor this morning. So we will move on to section 3, awards and recognition. And we will start with Ms. Hicks, if you will introduce your guest this morning.
Good morning. It is my privilege to introduce Barbara Young, Science Specialist with the Virginia Department of Education, who is here with us this morning to present the Green Ribbon Schools Award to Magna Vista High School. And also Mr. Weber is here representing Magna Vista High School. And if the two of you would come forward for the presentation. Thank you for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I do have to tell you, the drive down this morning, you all live in God's country. Boy, this is gorgeous down here. I wanted to take this opportunity, first of all, to tell you, I bring greetings from the Virginia Board of Education to your board and from Dr. Wright to your board, and to tell you that they send their congratulations as I present this award today. I want to tell you just a little bit about what the Green Ribbon Schools Award and Recognition is, and to make sure that you understand this is an extremely prestigious award. We are very, very proud of Magna Vista High School and the fact that they were able to earn this recognition. The Green Ribbon Schools Award and Recognition was developed by the U.S. Department of Education 3 years ago. And it was developed to recognize schools who are really focusing in on looking at their schools from a comprehensive look of supporting both sustainability and that they have a good, strong environmental education program, and that they are looking at the health of their students and their faculty. In the last 3 years, the U.S. Department of Education has awarded 146 schools across the nation the Green Ribbon Schools recognition. In Virginia, Magna Vista High School is one of 4 that has received this award. And so we are extremely proud of what they have done. That when a school applies for this award, it is not an easy recognition to earn. It takes a tremendous amount of work to actually just complete the application, as you well know. It's quite a daunting task, but well-deserved that in all three areas of sustainability, health of the faculty, and a very viable environmental education program, Magna Vista was well deserving of this award, and we certainly are happy to be able to present the award. We have a placard that we would like to present, and I'd like to present this to you,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Weber, and congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, it's right.
It's on.
Oh, good.
Squeeze in something?
You're on the company president? Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
All right, we're not
There we
gonna
go.
coordinate.
Early in the morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad that I could be here.
Thank you so much for coming down. I appreciate you taking the time.
Well.
We have also some recognitions, some awards, and Ms. Copenhagen will make us aware of those.
Good morning. The Center for Digital Education and the National School Boards Association recently presented their awards at the NSBA conference. The top 10 rankings are awarded to those school boards and districts that most fully implement technology benchmarks in the evolution of digital education. Henry County Public Schools won first place in school division between 3,000 and 12,000 students, and we were given the trophy at a banquet in New Orleans on Saturday, April the 5th, and Dr. Duvall and Ms. Flanagan and I accept the award and would like to present this to the school board.
You gonna give it to me?
Yes.
I'm gonna probably drop it.
Oh,
We've got this down.
Stay there.
We got to stay here, Dr.
Stay here, Dr. Duvall.
Got another one coming.
The next door, Alex. The 2014 Southside Virginia Regional Technology Consortium Awards Banquet was held at Longwood University on Tuesday, March 27th. Henry County Public Schools was awarded the Division Leadership Award, which recognizes the advances of technology in the educational setting in a school division. So I'd like to present that award to you.
Like prom.
I think we certainly owe a special thanks to Jane Copenhagen and her staff for all the hard work they've done that has made both of these two awards possible. It was rewarding for us to receive this honor at the national conference, and it was obvious that it's a very prestigious award for our system. I know that Janet deserves a lot of the credit, but the credit also is shared by the entire central office staff, by our principals in the individual schools, teachers who have implemented this technology, and I think also the students who have made use of it and the parents who have been supportive of what we have tried to do with technology in this county. So let me also mention too that Janet did a presentation at the National see how well that's received by all of these people from all over the country who are kind of in awe of some of the things we're able to do here in Henry County. She did a great job and certainly made Henry County Public Schools look good at that presentation. So thank you again, Jack. We'll move on to item 4, the information agenda.
Good morning, Dr. DeVault and members of the board. This morning I would like to share with you our math transition rubric, which we plan to use to help us properly place students in algebra classes. We want all of our students to graduate from Henry County Schools college and career ready, and we know in order to do this they must have strong educational foundations. So one area that we looked at was our math and our math skills that our students are leaving with. And we spent years studying and practicing differentiated instruction, and therefore we know that not all students are at the same readiness level at the same time. An analogy would be riding a bicycle. If you asked me to have two students learn to ride a bicycle, and one learn to ride at age 7 and one learn to ride at age 8, I would consider myself successful because both of these students learned to actually ride the bicycle. Well, the same is true with math. Students are not all at the same readiness level at the same time. We do want them to all get these same skills and leave Henry County Schools with the same skills, but we also know that they need to be appropriately placed at the right time in their educational career into algebra. Therefore, we need to provide scaffolding where needed, and we need to meet students at their instructional level. So some students will be in algebra classes in the middle school, and some students will be in algebra in the high school. Research, discussions with local business leaders, discussions with college professors, and our own math teachers have been telling us that our students are not acquiring the basic skills that they need to be successful when they leave high school. And some of the areas that we are hearing and we keep hearing about are computation, use of fractions and decimals, and percentages. So there's an article that was included in your board documents entitled, Why Kids Hate Math, Why Our Kids Hate Math, where several educators point out the harmful effects of pushing students into algebra too soon. And one teacher, Sally Miller, is quoted in the article, and she states, many of the concepts in algebra are too abstract, and if children are not developmentally ready to deal with abstraction, you can turn them off to math forever. Even the best students who can pull an A off in 8th grade algebra by just memorizing eventually end up realizing they did not learn it. And we've been hearing that exact statement from some of our students as well, that they memorize the fact they do well on the SOL and do well in the class, but then when it comes to applying those skills, they have trouble. So we want there to be different pathways, and if you read this across, because some of the arrows are hard to see, across the top, that students would have the opportunity of continuing with their work in elementary math, and they would be able to take 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, which is the traditional sequence of math courses that is necessary for some students. While other students would be able to follow that second line, and they would be able to take 6th grade math, 7th grade math, and then take algebra in the 8th grade. And then some students have completely grasped the concepts, and they would be able to be in 6th grade math, move on to algebra in 7th grade, and then take geometry in the 8th grade. We have developed a math transition rubric to help us appropriately place the students where they need to be. And in looking at the rubric that's also included, you would see that we are going to take into account their SOL test scores, their math results, their classroom performance, and that's specifically their grade that they get in the actual class, and their individual readiness, which will be assessed by their math teacher, and they would rate them on their work ethic as well as their problem-solving abilities. So then we would triangulate all that data to decide which pathway a student would follow and which best suits an individual's needs and where they are in their readiness, with all students going through the pathway just at different rates. So before graduation, all of our students would take Algebra 1, Geometry, and one additional math class before graduating. And of course, some students would continue in our math sequence through the high school and opportunities that we have with dual enrollment and our other local partners. So at this point, does anyone have any questions?
Well, I guess the first point that comes up to me as I look at this, you said the math teacher will determine through a recommendation which pathway, which we talking about sixth grade math teacher?
What'll happen is if you look at the rubric that you have in your documentation, that the sixth grade math teacher will sit down. They will be able to take their MAP scores, their SOL scores, and the actual rubric that you have, there are 2 questions that the math teacher is asked. He or she is asked to look at their problem-solving ability and rate them a 1 through 4, and their work ethic and persistence and rate them a 1 through 4. And the rubric gives them details of how, where the students should be placed on that rubric and the points that they should be assigned. So the teacher would have an impact.
So it'll be a recommendation. What if the parent or the child says, no, we want to do this direction rather than the direction you're recommending?
Well, typically what would happen is we have had some parents that in the past 2 years since I've been working with middle school parents in math, that they have scored and placed and been diagnosed as algebra ready, but the parent has asked that they not go into algebra, that they go at a slower rate because they want to make sure they have those foundational skills. Because the math 6th, 7th, and 8th does encompass the fractions, the decimals, and those things that a lot of businesses are saying they're not seeing. So yes, a parent could say, we're not ready for them to take the more advanced path. However, when it comes to the other way, I, as well as principals, would speak to those individual parents and let them know that there are some issues with if they want them to go too fast. And we have also shared that with some parents. And the article that you have, along with another article we shared with parents, and after reading that and thinking about it, some parents have said, even though I thought I wanted my child in algebra, you were right, they need to stay in the math 7. But with all the triangulation, I do think that we are going to have an accurate assessment of where students are and when they're ready.
Mr. Chairman, that's a valid question that you ask, and what I want to point out, which I know Mrs. Strayer has shared, we have several measures now as opposed to 1 or 2. Typically, we would use 1 or 2 test scores to make decisions, so we're broadening that as we heard about triangulation and looking at different sources of data. No one measure keeps them from algebra. There are several that work into that rubric or matrix, whatever you want to call it, and you add up those points. But I fully expect that we're going to have less students in Algebra 1 in perhaps 7th grade or 8th grade, where I know previously the majority of students went into Algebra 1 by 8th grade, whether they were ready or not, to be frank with you. So I fully expect there will be less students going into Algebra 1, and we're going to get feedback because we're going to have parents who are going to say, I want my child in Algebra 1. I don't care what data you have to say they shouldn't. And that's where we're going to need support. And that's why it's so important to talk about this now, because I'm just preparing for what may come through, because unfortunately algebra is seen as a status symbol type thing rather than a readiness thing, and I would argue that you can have rigor in any course. You don't have to change the title of a course to get rigor, but for parents sometimes it becomes a discussion of when my child takes algebra during what year, rather than focusing on readiness. So we're going to have some work ahead of us to communicate this to our parents.
Well, I strongly agree with what you're saying about it being a status thing. Having worked in high school for many, many years, all too often we see students who start algebra too early, and then by the 10th grade or maybe 11th, they're through with math. They don't have a math, in many cases don't take a math for senior year, sometimes not even their junior year. Then they go away to college, and all of a sudden they're in a math required math course in college and haven't had a math class in 2 years, and they struggle with it. So
Yeah, concerned about students who stop taking math courses before their senior year. We believe students should take math every year until they graduate, but that's another issue that we'll have to spend some more time on. But we're finding that in our SAT results. Students are taking an SAT after they've not had math for a period of time, and just like you said, students are going to college. Some of them having to take remedial courses because they haven't had math in 2 years. So these are problematic issues that we're going to continue to work on. But as the employers are telling us, one of the first questions they ask is a fraction, question. I hate to keep saying it because they'll have to keep changing their fraction, but they may ask a question like, what's 1/4 plus 1/8? And surprisingly, the future employees can't answer that. So again, employers are saying measurement, fractions, decimals. We need employees who've mastered those skills. So we need to really spend time working in that area. So that's why we're bringing this to you now.
Thank you. This communication issue, make sure students and parents understand exactly the process, what the final outcome is. And certainly the final outcome should not be finishing up math in 11th and 10th grade. Other comments or questions about this issue?
Back in the day, as we say, there were those that took college prep and those that didn't. Some of us that didn't take college prep wanted additional math. They wouldn't give us algebra, so they came up with what they call consumer math. Gave us a class in that. That didn't discontinue. Nobody ever have that anymore. So these terms that I learned then that I got, let's keep them at bay. Mean, median, and mode. I learned all those consumer math.
We do have a statistics course where they of course, you would maybe be surprised to know that they're learning statistics now in elementary school. Median mode, when does that start? Probably 4th grade?
It starts in 4th and it continues through middle school. And those classes like the 6th, 7th, 8th grade math, those are the kind of skills that are involved in that some of the students are skipping and really needing.
I didn't get to the 10th grade, but I remember that.
That's right. And that's important.
Okay, other questions or concerns? So this was an information item. This is not something we vote. This is what we're doing, right?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it's important to know that teachers have been involved in this process as well as principals, and we'll certainly provide you with some information on how that's going, but I just didn't want you all to be surprised if you start hearing some feedback on this.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda. Under that, we have approval of minutes of the March meeting, approval of bills for payment, approval of summer business hours, and approval of overnight and out-of-state field trips. Is there anything involving those 4 issues that board members would like to bring up individually for discussion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any additional discussion? The summer business hours change, we've been doing that for several years now.
Yes, sir.
Everyone seems to like it.
Yeah, that's going well. We are.
I'm seeing smiles.
We enjoy having the Fridays off, but usually tired by the time we get to that because they're 4 10-hour days. But the most important thing is there's some cost savings there involved. I believe roughly 40,000. Mr. Scott, I believe, running on that schedule.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as it was presented. Those in favor of this motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries. Move to item 6, action agenda. First issue there is approval of Carl Perkins federal and state grant. Ms. Rader.
Okay, well, I am also here this morning to get your approval on the Carl Perkins Grant. You all know the Carl Perkins Grant funds our career and technical education program. And this year our grant has decreased, which was surprising with all the emphasis on STEM education. I felt sure that we would get an increase in funding. And at this point we have been decreased to $162,048.53, but this grant is 100% reimbursable, and all the money that we spend will be reimbursed back. We do support our program areas that include agriculture education, business and information technology, family and consumer education, marketing, technology, trade and industrial sciences, and our health and medical science program with the Perkins Grant. We also support the strategic plan by providing those high-quality professionals with professional development, high-quality instruction, and helping always to increase and improve our technology that we're using in these classrooms. First of all, for the professional development piece for the career and technical educators, that we will send those teachers to conferences as much as possible, as you see with the funds decreasing. A lot of the conferences that we are allowed to send them to do not require a lot of funding, so we are fortunate in that. A lot of it is supplemented by the State Department. So with the $2,857.62, we want to send them to learn more about industry certifications and how they can help our students be successful, since we all know that all of our students, starting with this freshman class currently, if they're seeking a standard diploma, they have to earn an industry certification from a CTE course, that they can pick up the curriculum updates and make sure that they're staying current with their subject that they're teaching, and also to learn more about cooperative education. You know, we have a big focus that we have one class that is strongly cooperative education with marketing, where the students are allowed to go out and get jobs, and that's part of the curriculum. But we also, with the O. Henry program, and we want all of our students to be able to have that opportunity to go out and to get experience in the real world. With the training, we still have our focus on robotics and Legos. The Project Lead the Way pre-engineering program that we are required to send our teachers to receive training. We plan to spend about $3,357.41 in this area. And a required part of the grant is that we support our special populations. If we are not meeting needs in certain areas, as far as having the special needs students, economically disadvantaged students, limited English proficient students, and non-traditional students in our CTE courses, we are required to spend money to meet those standards. We do not have any problems. Our CTE classes are equitable, and all students in all of our high schools and middle schools are open to taking these classes. But we do plan to spend the $1,500 in providing translation of the program of studies into Spanish, and also providing a translator at the high school registration night, so that to make sure that our students and our parents are aware of all the CTE courses that we offer and the benefits of taking those courses. The bulk of our money we like to spend on our students. So therefore, we have allocated $21,025 to send students to their conferences, and as much as possible, we do start with the regional funding and then move on to state and national. And if we run out of funds, of course, we can't support, but if we will spend as much money as possible on supporting our students in these competitions. And if you ever have an opportunity to travel to one, I know recently the host of competition was in Roanoke, that you could see the phenomenal things that the students are doing at the conferences and all that's asked from them, the challenges that they have. It's quite impressive. And then we will update equipment and technology, which is a required part of the grant, and that we need to also do to make sure that we're staying on the cutting edge. So our first big expenditure is for our 50 laptops and our 2 carts. That will be 25 to Magna Vista and 25 to Bassett for our Project Lead the Way. These are very expensive laptops. I know you see us purchasing a lot of laptops, but these are more expensive because they have to run the programs for drafting, for the computer-aided design, and for the Autodesk bundles that we have to also purchase that are $6,000 for our pre-engineering programs. We plan to, for their health and medical science, continue to buy the software. Those programs are also computer-based. The students have access to computers and laptops daily in those classes, and they use the software to simulate activities and to learn about the medical terminology, and that is a cost of $7,500. For agriculture, we plan to purchase 25 laptops and a cart for Magna Vista. This would be $27,436. And for business, the same thing. Those students, instead of buying textbooks, we continue to purchase software, which we usually get updates every couple of years, so that our students can stay on the front of what is new with IT and in the business world. And that would be the entire Perkins grant, which was, once again, $162,048.53, which is 100% reimbursable with your approval of this grant. Do you have any questions?
What type of laptops are they replacing?
They currently, all the ones that were on this agenda are in classrooms now, and they're being replaced. And they are, I want to say, Ms. Copenhaver, they are Dells that are going to be replaced with HPs. So they're still PCs, but they just had them for 6 years. And practically the way they've only had theirs for 5 years, because of the programs that are run on those computers, they have to be replaced more frequently.
We'll be able to use these old computers in other areas?
That is our plan. Ms. Copenhaver and her technicians evaluate, because sometimes the older ones cannot be used because if they have like the XP version and cannot be used, or if they it's cost ineffective to use those. But our plan now is specifically for those the agricultural laptops that are at Magna Vista, for the older ones to be moved to Lowell Park for agriculture to use there. So that is the plan.
You said that we received an increase in call Perkins. What percentage increase?
Actually, it was a decrease. It was a decrease of $16,000, and it could still decrease. And typically at this point of the year, we're told to use last year's budget amount to present to you all, that they actually have went ahead and given us this amount as the figure, with the caveat that it could decrease. My hope is that it will increase. And we also have a plan for the increase, and we would bring that back to the board.
I move that we approve the 2014-2015 Carl D. Perkins Federal, State, Local Plan for expenditures listed in the budget for career and technical education.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Strayer's presentation and her work on the budget for this area be approved. Any additional questions or comments? If not, those in favor of this motion signify by raising your right hand. Okay, I believe, Mr. Strayer, you have the next item, purchasing reading materials for certain elementary schools.
I do. Currently, Axton, Mount Olivet, John Redd, and Collinsville Primary are using the SRA reading program, and that is a scripted phonics-based program. Beginning with next year, the 2014-15 school year, we want to transition these 4 schools to the Scott Foreman Reading Street series. The Reading Street series is currently being used by all of our other elementary schools, and this transition will align the reading program countywide and provide a balanced literacy program. With the SRA being focused on phonemic awareness and phonics, we would transition over to the Reading Street series, which would also let us focus on decoding, fluency, and comprehension. So that today I'm asking for your approval of spending the $131,575 to purchase these reading materials for those 4 schools.
Any questions regarding this request?
Just to add to that, Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Strayer and Mr. House have been working with the principals and meeting with teachers to discuss our elementary reading program. We've spent a lot of time looking at the Daily 5, which some of you may hear about, that I believe all of the schools have implemented in some fashion, are making preparations to do that. And this series goes goes along well with that. And this will put all of our schools on the same reading series. I'd also tell you that when our teachers have collaborated throughout the year, they've had a lot of conversations about reading, and we've gotten a lot of feedback in this regard from teachers and principals. So we feel like this is a good direction to move in. It will also connect with our curriculum that we're revising. Our elementary reading curriculum, which will be rolling out next year. So we believe all of this fits together nicely for us.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve this request? This comes out of the textbook budget.
Yes.
Chairman, I move that we approve the request.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this request to purchase reading materials be approved. Any additional questions, concerns? Not those in favor of this motion, signify by raising your right hand. Mr. Strayer, I believe you also have item C.
Okay. Also, you all know that we meet with the Career and Technical Advisory Committee several times during the year. And after presenting the Carl Perkins presentation to them and having some discussions with teachers, and a needs assessment was completed, the following areas of agriculture, cosmetology, sports medicine, criminal justice, and some classes in the family and consumer science field were identified as areas that needed updated textbooks and support materials. And these updated materials will assist the teachers as they strive to help our students meet those competencies that they are required to meet with the students. It will also help engage the student, as a lot of this information does change frequently, and their textbooks have not been updated in quite a few years. So the selection process was followed that you have a copy of in your board documents. So I am asking that you approve this out of the textbook budget for $32,951.44.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve. I have a criminal justice book that's 10 years old and it's worn out. It's abuses.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this request be approved to purchase these textbooks. Any additional comments, questions?
Are the reviewers that are listed that reviewed all these textbooks, are these all our employees?
They are. A lot of these are singleton classes, but they did work with their counterpart at Magna Vista or Bassett. They had one. And some, as you'll see, there's a lot of program areas that were left off, and those are because our true focus in CTE is using software as much as possible. So those teachers who have laptops and have computers, we want to use the software and stay up to date. And these textbooks are truly that only resources, because we, in CTE, you know, a lot of that is hands-on, and textbooks are not used on a daily basis. It's based on, as you spoke to Mr. Zayer and Mr. Alford teaching this class, you know a lot of it is the hands-on, the what actually happens. It's not like a typical classroom. The book is definitely there for a support material. And it will be classroom sets, not a book for each student in the classroom to take home.
These all come following up on Mr. Milner's usual question. They all do come from state-approved fees.
Absolutely, and that's why the selection process where it says it followed the DOE guidelines, yes, sir, those companies had to all submit to the DOE verification that the books had been reviewed and the information was correct in those books.
That's a new process that the state has implemented. We have completed all the paperwork and submitted it all to the DOE.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor for this request. Those in favor, signify by raising the right hand. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Move on to approval of purchase of 20 desktop computers. Mr. House.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, requesting 20 desktop computers that will be purchased out of the Regional Alternative Education Grant funding. Those students, again, are housed at the Center for Community Learning, and actually they're interchangeable with Ms. Fitzgibbon's program. but the regional grant has the funding, and these computers are about 7 years old. So we'll be replacing and upgrading 20 of those at this time. The cost of $18,915 from the capital outlay replacement line for regional alternative education.
Questions?
Not to nitpick or anything, but that's close to $1,000 for a desktop computer. Are these, this seems really high compared to what desktop computer prices are these days. And I'm just curious, are these, can you speak to what
Yes, I can
features this
answer
has that is driving that price?
The thing that's driving the price up is we always put CompuTrace on them, and we always buy the Microsoft Office Suite, which is another $100. So it adds it up.
Yes,
It's
not just the computer.
Right, it's just maxed with the software that we use in the school division.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's been a number of years, but who's with us in regional alternative?
Patrick County and Martinsville City.
They're still with us? I'll motion to approve purchase.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that this request be approved. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. So, Mr. House, I believe you have the next item.
This is a renewal of our MAP contract, measures of academic progress. We've added for the upcoming year in grades 3 through 8, we've added the science component to that. The total cost for us is $39,868.50 through Title I funds, which encompasses all of our elementary schools, because we're able to use Title I funding for that. And then the local funding is $21,838.60, and that primarily encompasses our middle school grades as well as algebra and geometry at the high school level.
This is the program that you've shown us in the past.
Yes, sir. We're just renewing our contract for next year.
Questions, concerns involving this request?
And that is out of 14 and 15 funds. It's not out of current budget.
Move we approve the purchase of the measures of academic progress assessment program.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this request be approved. Are there additional questions or concerns? If not, those in favor of approval of this request signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries. Item F under action agenda, award of bid for phase 2 construction at Mayville High School, Warrior Tech. Mr. Scott, notation there pending changes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the bids were solicited for the continuation of Warrior Tech construction, and of the 3 firms responding, Daniel and Company out of Danville, Virginia was the lowest bid with $203,850, and you see we attached a bid summary for your review. Due to the bids coming in over budget, Mr. Bullins and myself met with Ms. Agnew and Mr. Benner and discussed some value engineering options, and in turn I worked with the contractor after that, and we've removed some of the construction options in this phase of it, and the new base bid now is $156,400. And so it's recommended that we would award this contract to Daniel and Company of Danville, Virginia for $156,400. $150,000 of that would come out of FY13 carry forward, and the $6,400 would come out of this year's building improvement funds.
And board members, if I could just add to that, essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, what was cut out was they were going to add 2 additional large lab learning spaces. You know, when you go into Warrior Tech, you have the 2 very large labs. Now we'll only be adding 1 additional. The 4th one, we will not be putting in place for next year, but I want to make sure that the board's aware of the fact that we have to do that at some point, because when they get to full capacity, they're going to need that additional learning space. So obviously we can't afford to do that based on, and the other thing to point out,
seeing construction prices increasing a little bit with the changes in economy. So you can see when our bids are coming back, plus some of the renovations that we that this involves, especially with those classrooms, involves some load-bearing walls. And so when you go to changing structural changes like that, it adds to the cost as well.
And phase 2 is supposed to be the final phase. We were supposed to be completely finished, because I know that some of you have asked how many phases are there. There was a phase 1 and 2. But what I wanted to point out is that we're not done based on this. We still have an additional learning space that will cost roughly, what, $50,000?
Roughly, yes, sir. And then the good thing is the drawings of this is already completed. So it's just a matter of reprinting some different drawings for next year and bidding out that small piece of the construction moving forward.
Any estimates to how much more it will cost to delay doing that till later as opposed to doing it all at once? I would assume it's going to be a little more expensive to have to wait and then go back and rebid it.
Right, it will. We'll see a little bit of a cost just for the fact of mobilization, if you will, while you're already on site, plus with the construction administration involved with the architects. I don't have an estimate on what the additional cost may be. Mine's doing it now, but I will get that information and share it with Dr. Kite.
We had originally allocated $150,000 of the carryover for this.
Yes, sir.
What was the amount of the bid originally before you cut back on?
$203,850 was the base bid on it. Yes, sir.
I noticed this is a different contractor from the contractor that did the original work there. Does that present any kind of problems when you switch contractors in the middle of?
Well, obviously, ideally, we'd love to have the same contractor because they're familiar with it. But the good thing is this contractor did work on the, if you remember when we did Magna Vista, we also, renovations, we also did that in phases, the heating and air conditioning in one summer, and then we did lighting and ceiling for classrooms in the second summer. This is the same contractor that did that second phase of that. So the good thing is he's familiar with the building, familiar with our process, so that should help us as well.
Any idea of whether the original contractor did bid on this?
He did. He did, yes, sir. He was just the second one up from that bid on that. So the one you're talking about, the one that did original Warrior Tech?
Where did they?
No, sir. Clark Brothers out of Stewart was the one that did the original Warrior Tech.
Dr. Snowball makes a good point. I mean, is there any way we can come up with the extra money to do the whole thing and get it over with? You're talking less than $50. Take it out of our contingency fund, we let me use that since I've been there. Yeah.
We do. We have plans for that already.
Oh, we have other plans for it. I know that if as the present countywide budget is being finalized, if it hasn't already been, that we did not get all the money for those extra things that we hoped we would get.
I'm talking about the contingency fund presently, that runs out June the 30th.
Well, it'd be difficult for me to answer that right now, but I will tell you that, as you all know, our enrollment was lower than we anticipated. So we already had a deficit starting out the year. So we certainly have to work on what we have at year end. Certainly, if we have additional funds, I think the first answer we need to have is, what is the additional cost?
Sure.
Is there an additional cost? Because we were thinking that we could delay the final lab space, but if there's a significant increase in cost, then certainly we need to look at doing it now versus later.
All right, and we could look at that. I mean, the next year's building improvement fund is where I had planned on doing this piece out of that particular budget on it. But we can run those numbers. I had hoped, because of the way the budget was running, any money that we had left over as far as from operation maintenance would also, remember we had the Bassett High School second phase that's out there, was pending availability of funds. So we also were trying to find money to handle the rest of the second phase of Bassett as well.
I think it would be a very good thing if we could just go ahead and finish it. I
still leave the door open to consider what other board members are proposing you.
Well, you can always increase that amount pending available funds.
Yeah, sure, we can.
You can make that amendment, and then, if we have additional funding, then we can handle it that way.
When would this work take place? November the 7th?
Yes, sir. They would start the following week after school.
So Dr. Cotton's suggestion is that we approve this right here and attempt to finalize the whole thing pending available funds.
Well, with
The appropriate motion.
maybe with an amendment,
Couldn't we approve the base bid portion of $203,850 pending availability of funds?
Yeah, we can just make that adjustment, and if the board wants to approve that, and with the understanding that we'll do what we can with what we have. If we have additional funding, then we'll complete the entire project.
And then would that still allow for that if we don't have the additional funds to do the plan as drawn up for 156 schools?
Yes.
Underneath that?
Yeah.
That's reasonable.
well, Dr. Stanball, since you reduced us to this thought, you want to make a motion that incorporates kind of what the discussion has led us to?
Yeah, I move that we approve the bid for the construction for Warrior Tech, the original bid as presented, Daniel and Company, $203,850 pending fund availability.
Second.
Does that kind of encompass the thinking here?
I think it is what we need.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Questions? If not, those in favor of this motion signify by raising your right hand. Move on at this time to item 7, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members have some good news to report from the month of March. Several highlights I'd like to share with the board. The first one, pie without pie is still pie. Can you celebrate Pie Day without a pie? Obviously you can. In Stanleytown Elementary, 5th grade students enjoyed their annual Pie 3.14 day celebration on March 14th, 3/14, otherwise known as Friday, March 14th. Undoubtedly, pies were in high demand that day. All were sold out at the local stores, so students used cookies, donuts, and juice barrels, all circular, to put their math skills to the test. The students were encouraged to measure the diameter of each object and put the formula in place using circumference and diameter to the test. And what happened? My pie was perfect every time, and cleanup was delicious. Elementary school students traveled to the top of the world. Stanleytown and Mason Elementary students have traveled to the top of the world all the way to Barrow, Alaska, through a partnership with a professor of education and physics at Radford University. At the end, Shelton, students in these schools use technology to Skype with Radford students currently doing research in Alaska. Students communicated over a 2-week period in which they observed live Arctic experiments such as crystallized bubbles and ice measurements. The students have been amazed at the contrast in weather, land, and lifestyles between Henry County and Alaska. Cultures at Jamestown. The Jamestown-Yorktown Foundation presented a program called Cultures at Jamestown in the 4th grade classrooms throughout the county, and this picture students at John Rose Smith Elementary were able to see regalia from the time period in order to enhance their learning of the subject. Students also wore clothes and armor, learned about handcrafted tools, and touched silkworm cocoons. What a great way to bring history to life in the classroom. Reading with a purpose. Recently, Mrs. Radford's students at Laurel Park Middle School worked at cooperative learning base stations that were driven by students' interest of global awareness in endangered animals. Cross-curricular centers throughout the room allowed students to complete various tasks. Students pictured in the interdisciplinary station on this slide made qualitative and quantitative observations, researched information, and completed vocabulary activities. What a great way to celebrate. Collinsville Primary celebrated Read Across America with many festive activities throughout the month of March. One of the day's students and faculty participated in the Grinchiest Grinch Day by dressing up in green to represent one of many favorite Dr. Seuss characters, the Grinch. Many community figures shared in the celebration by coming into the classrooms and reading to the students. Students made themed headbands and decorations for the hallways and doors to show their support of reading, and Mrs. Milner read at an assembly for the students and really shared lots of good ideas about the importance of reading and how a dream can become a reality. It only starts with one person. Of course, I participated in voting the door competition, as several others here did as well. Parents gave in the STEM Fund at Axton. Axton second graders invited their parents and other family members for lunch and a walk through the scientific process as they experimented with the way sound travels through various states of matter. Families and children used iPads to search for potential science projects after they were exposed to the scientific process and were given a rubric to help guide their project completion. Wendell Scott's legacy. Laurel Park Middle School welcomed back Frank Scott, a former Laurel Park teacher and coach, as he presented an assembly on his father and his father's mechanical genius. Frank's father, Wendell Scott, was a NASCAR driver and the only African American to win what is known today as the Spring Cup Series. Mr. Scott encouraged students to focus on STEM and preparing for their future. Film, liquids, lights, and engineering. As part of the STEM initiative, Tim Gerazimov, a chemical engineer, came to FC Middle School to demonstrate to Ms. Tatum's class that an engineer has many career paths. Mr. Gerazimov brought with him several types of film for the students. The film ranged from translucent to opaque, purposes of being ornamental or transferring or conducting heat. The students were most impressed with his ability to change the color of liquids simply by exposing them to UV light. Mr. Grazimov later explained that this is how dye is used to create particular colors and why certain colors fade when exposed to sunlight or UV rays. Science in action at Kite Festival. The Magna Vista Science Department recently participated in the Piedmont Kite Festival at Jack Dalton Park. Approximately 200 participants visited the table where they worked with solar panels of varying sizes and wind turbines. They observed as the turbines generated electricity, turned fans, played music and lights, and ran a water pump. In addition, visitors worked with a hydro fuel cell, capturing solar energy, and using the cell to split water into hydrogen and oxygen gas. Working solar ovens were also on display. Children were able to design new fins for their wind turbines to see how different shapes affected the speed and ability to capture the wind and generate electricity. Over 80 children made pinwheels to capture a little bit of wind as they took part in this event. It takes heart to be a hero. Once again, Stanleytown Elementary participated in the American Heart Association sponsored Jump for Heart fundraiser. Events were held at various times throughout the day and included jumping in many ways, using ropes, beanbags, ladders, and hula hoops. A few students may have struggled, but everyone tried their best to jump into the festivities. In all, the school collected over $3,000 for the American Heart Association, with 75% of the students participating 100% free of injury. The theme, "It Takes a Heart to Be a Hero," was evident within the Stanleytown Elementary family. Also at Stanleytown, there was a focus on roars against bullying. School Resource Officer John Accord recently addressed each grade level to discuss characteristics of bullies and how at times everyone is a bully, even without realizing it. If you laugh at someone from the safety of a group, just because everyone else laughed too, or if you condone negative behavior, standing by while someone else is being picked on or ridiculed, then you are too a bully. Officer Accord patiently answered questions from his eager audience on the topic and gave the students coping strategies for various situations involving bullying. Each session was a roaring success in helping students and staff know how to stop bullying anywhere it may happen. You may have read about this next one in the Martinsville Bulletin, but Carver first graders participated in the Learn to Swim program. Carver, actually Rich Acres students participated as well. First graders from Carver and Rich Acres are part of this pilot program, Learn to Swim, at the Martinsville Henry County Family YMCA. Funded by the Martinsville Area Community Foundation, the program's aim is to teach first graders swimming skills and water safety. Students participated in a 45-minute lesson each day for 5 days. Bassett High School cadets present colors for the Martinsville race. Bassett High School JROTC cadets present the colors at the STP 500 at Martinsville Speedway. Certainly these students represented us well at the race. FFA Growth, Passion, Success Leadership Conference. 7 members of the Laurel Park Middle FFA chapter recently attended the Growth, Passion, Success GPS Student Leadership Conference hosted by the Chatham Middle FFA chapter, conducted by the Virginia State FFA officers, national FFA officers, and agriculture businesses throughout Virginia. The annual conference emphasized to FFA members that they come to continue on their personal growth. Topics of personal growth included public speaking traits, parliamentary procedure demonstrations, social skills, manners, and community involvement. The 2014 State Beta Convention, Bassett High School Beta members represented Bassett High School at 2014 State Beta Convention in Richmond, Virginia, and students presented a skit, and Caleb Davis ran for Vice President of the National Beta Club. Recruiting team participates in education career fairs. We didn't want to leave out central office. Henry County Public Schools recruiting team consisting of HR representatives and principals, assistant principals at the elementary, middle, and high school levels have been representing our school division at education fairs in both Virginia and North Carolina, seeking to recruit high-quality teachers to fill vacancies for the 2014-15 school year. And this photo, Mrs. Lisa Milner, principal of Conville Primary, and Mrs. Christy Landon, Director of Human Resources, participated in the Spring Career and Education Expo at Winston-Salem State University. Mrs. Larissa Hairston Penn, principal at Stanleytown Elementary, also participated at this fair, but is not pictured. She's probably talking to a potential candidate, I'm sure. Other career fairs included on this year's schedule include those scheduled by the Western Virginia Public Education Consortium, which we call WEDPAC, and at Radford University, Virginia State University, Fayetteville State University, and James Madison University. I'd like to offer congratulations to the following students. Student joins Pipe and Drum Corps. Leah Chouini, who is in the Magna Vista Band, performed with the Guilford Courthouse Pipe and Drum Corps in a ceremony that honored the fallen soldiers of the Battle of Guilford Courthouse during the American Revolutionary War. A senior at Magna Vista, she has been practicing with the group for approximately 3 months. The Corps travels to South Carolina next month to perform. VBODA District 6 Concert Assessment. Concert assessment is the measuring stick for every band program in Virginia. 2 bands from FC Middle School recently performed at Blacksburg High School. Both concert band and symphonic band received superior ratings, straight ones, from each judge on stage and in sight reading. This is the first time in our history that we have taken 2 bands from our school, FC, and it could not have gone better. The kids were terrific all day and showed proud of their work, said Mr. Allred. Additionally, the Bassett High School and FC Middle School bands were the only high school, middle school theater program in our district to receive straight superior ratings with all groups. Magna Vista students placed first in regional tournament. Congratulations to the Forensics Humorous Duo team, Kiana Espinoza and Sarah Beth Webb, who placed first in the 3A West Regional Tournament, beating 9 other duo teams. They advanced to state competition and placed 3rd in state at Harrisonburg High School, earning Magna Vista its first state placement in several years. Way to go, Warriors. Making history at Beta Convention, Magna Vista Beta Club placed 2nd overall in the Scholastic Sweepstakes at the state convention. The club brought home 13 first, 2nd, and 3rd place awards in all. As a result of several students participating and qualifying, they will compete in the National Beta Convention in June. Congratulations to all for a job well done. DECA State Conference and Competition. Angel Simmons from Bassett High School was a finalist in professional selling at the Virginia DECA Conference in Virginia Beach. Certainly this is a skill that will come in handy for a future career. FBLA brings home regional awards. 17 Magna Vista students placed in the Regional Future Business Leaders of America competition recently in Roanoke. FBLA PBL's award program recognizes and rewards excellence in a broad range of business and career-related areas. Top regional and state winners are eligible to compete in the National Leadership Conference each summer. Bassett High School HOSA attends the State Leadership Conference. Bassett High School, HOSA, attended the 34th Virginia HOSA State Leadership Conference held in Roanoke, Virginia. The following students were state finalists. Third place in healthcare issues exam, Adrian Stable. Second place in medical terminology, Francis Sebastian. First place in pathophysiology, Cheney Gordon. And outstanding state leader, Brett Showalter. Brett was also elected the 2014-15 Virginia HOSA State President and will lead HOSA through the upcoming year. So lots of great things going on in our schools. That completes my highlight for March.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. And this is always one of the highlights of our meeting, I think, to see what our students in our schools are doing. So you have the final plan for makeup days?
Yes, I hope this is the final plan. Because every time I talk about makeup days, something happens. So I'm a little worried about telling you about this, but we're at the point now where we have to meet, as we've talked about, we have to meet the 990 hours or the 180 days. Obviously, since we go more than 5.5 hours per day, we have some bank time we've been able to use. But in order to be within the 990 hours, we do need to add some additional instructional time. And I've already shared some of this with the board, but my recommendation is that I'm looking at them, make sure I get the dates right, that the school year be extended by 1 day to May 23rd, and that will be the last day of instruction. Now, the day before that is the 22nd, which was an early release day. We'll make that a full day for students. The 23rd, which is the Friday, will be a half day for students, an early release day. And that's required in order for us to meet the instructional hours that we must have. That gives us what we need, plus a little bit of cushion, not much. But we feel it's important. We've already been in communication with Magna Vista High School because you know they have a graduation Friday evening. And of course, we need to offer support for them as they prepare for that graduation. We need to get that additional instructional time in. In addition to that, that moves the teacher workday. The teacher workday was that Friday. Recommending that teacher workday be May 27th, which is a Tuesday of the following week. And then, of course, we've also made some adjustments to the SOL testing schedule to move that back slightly, because I know that we all have concerns about having enough time due to all the instructional time that's missed. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that and see if you had any questions or concerns. My plan is to communicate that today after the board meeting.
Any questions, concerns about these? You're not allowing us to quote you as this being the final plan.
I thought the last one was the final plan, but I wouldn't expect it to sell in March, but late March, we got that as well.
Okay, receipts and expenditures, Ms. Lawson, do you have some good news for us there?
I have some good news and some bad news. Looking at where we are today on our revised budget is $74.8 million, and year-to-date through February 28th, we had expended $45 million of that. We're right on schedule. On Friday, the DOE released the governor's caboose budget that McAuliffe signed, and we're looking at enrollment. We based our budget this year on 7,064 students based on what the governor released. Their projection is 6,976.95 students, which is a reduction of 87.25. Our staff is currently looking at our March 30th enrollment, which our funding is based on. And the rough calculation, they're still working on it, so this still may not be a final number. At 6,987 students, which is a reduction of 76.28 students from our original budgeted enrollment level. That does mean that we are short on our revenue because we are way under what we projected. So we are working through these numbers to see exactly what that number will be for us, but we are going to have to cut back and make sure we don't go over our projected revenue based on our new enrollment numbers. been a challenging year with the enrollment, because we were slightly up last year over what we had projected in 12-13, but this year's been a different story.
That's why I made the statement that I made earlier, that we do try to use year-end funds for one-time expenditures, but obviously with the enrollment the way that it is, we're going to be limited on how much we have available year-end.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Austin.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions about any of the other reports in that section.
Questions on any of the other reports presented in this part of our agenda? Matters under Section 8, matters from the board, and specific matters from the board. Section 9, reminder of dates and events. Those are listed in your agenda. April 14th, the Board of Supervisors public hearing coming up next week. Yeah, next week. At this time, then, we will move to item 10, work session. This session will take place up in the